Okay, Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Hope everyone are doing well. So we are now in chapter 5. We still have 2 chapters to go for web security. So chapter 5 discuss on web application technology. We're going to look what is the web application technology and how it is work in the terms of a web application. Okay, in chapter 5, I know the web application content is quite broad, but for this course, okay, we must know a few web application technologies such as the HTTP protocol, the hypertext transfer protocol that being used in website, web pages, and then the web functionality, the server-side functionality, client-side functionality, and security elements such as state and session. Okay, for this discussion, I just want to introduce you to a web technology. A web application technology. For those who are web student, web technology student, for you it is very familiar. For those who are already taking a course of web application in previous semester, this is not something new to you. And then maybe some of you just know what is the web, but don't know the differences between the static web and the web application. Okay, in this sense, I will explain a bit information on this web application technology. So, what is the web application? Unlike traditional software, the web servers as both an development and users platform. A web application is a system that utilize W3C standard and technologies to deliver web-specific resources to client. Okay, this is not new to you, okay, because most of the time now we are using a web browser as our front end or application interface, so that you can use the application. For the simplest example is your author, is your SMAP information for student that consider as a web application, as long as there is a two-way communication between client and server, and then you have data stored in the server, we consider it as a web application. Okay, it can be used in desktop web browser, tablet, handphone, handheld, whatever it is, as long as it supports a web browser. That is the good of this. When all of these applications that enable or agree with the HTTP protocol, that can be considered as a web application. Okay. Again, it's a client-server application that uses a web browser as its client program and perform an interactive service by connecting with servers over the internet or intranet. Okay, it's not being done in your computer, but it is done in connected computer or in a server. Okay, as long as you have this interaction or connectivity between you as a client and to another computer as a server that do the processing and everything done in other places. A website simply delivers content from static files. A web application presents dynamically tailored content based on request parameters, track user behaviors, and security consideration. This means that the web application itself somehow contain a static website. So that means a static file, static pages, that there is no dynamic content where there is no instruction or interaction between you and and server. Okay, but it's still parked inside a web server. Okay, for example, if you go to Gmail, for example, when you type a gmail.com, okay, that is a static page, okay, displaying the information and everything, and then we have a form that you can use to log in, where you need to write or put your username and secured by the your password. So that interaction or validation, checking and everything is done by the server, not in your computer. That is an example of the web application. Alright, this is example. If you can see Facebook, Gmail, Yahoo Mail, or anything that have the interaction that can be processed in another computer. Okay, we have a stored data that can be considered as a web application. I think most of the web nowadays is very dynamic and interactive, so that can be considered as a web application. Okay, and what is the internet actually? Okay, we should go to this one first before we go to the web application. But since internet is not a new thing to all of you nowadays, because before this, in a few decades ago, okay, no student or all people don't have this internet. The internet is a global system of interconnected computer. The largest network in the world is considered as internet, where they use a standard TCP/IP internet protocol to serve billions of users worldwide. So the internet is a global data communication system. It's a hardware and software infrastructure that provides connectivity between computers. Okay, before this, we have a standalone computer, and then we have a network computer where you can communicate between one nodes to another. That means from one PC to another. But nowadays, when we have the infrastructure of the internet that agree with the protocol of TCP/IP, so that means TCP/IP is transmission control protocol, internet protocol that enable you to communicate between various or multiples or billions of computers at one time, no matter where they are and where the location is, as long as it is connected to the internet. So most of the interfaces that make you connect to the internet is a web browser. So this is the infrastructure of the web. Okay, as you can see, okay, number one is it's client. Okay, when you see like all of this icon, okay, there is Internet Explorer. We don't have it like now. Right now we have Bing, and we have Opera, and then we have Mozilla. All of this thing is a web browser. Okay, the famous web browser right now, it can be a Chrome web browser. We have a lot of web browser. Okay, it's number one. And then you want to access data, this one, you want to access data in the web server. Before you go to the web server need to know whether you are the legitimate or a valid user that can access content inside the web server. Before you go to the web server, you need to travel through all of these things. For example, this one. Okay, step number 2, the proxy caches, and then we have a server-side caching, and then go to the web server. So this is the general infrastructure of the web. Okay, let's see what protocol, okay, that have all of these things. Okay, we have 3 things that we need to have for the web. Okay, for example, the first one is the URL, the Uniform Resource Locator, or a website addresses, for example, like uthm.edu.my. And then we have the hypertext markup language that used to do the publishing. Okay, you see the information of or the content inside a web page using the hypertext markup language HTML for displaying the information, and then it can be transferable with the exchange protocol. We call it hypertext transfer protocol. So this chapter in your web security course, most of the discussion is related to the HTTP. Okay, what is the benefit? It is easy to deploy and upgrade, its cross-platform compatibility, limited resources on client side, interoperability. So the benefit of using a web application, you just need a web browser. Even a Chromebook that don't have an operating system, a cloud operating system, as long as it has a web browser, you can use that web application. Okay, it's totally different in the previous decades ago, when you need to install the application and you need to buy the application, and then you need to do a setup and configuration. It takes time, it takes a lot of resources before you can use that application. Nowadays, as long as you have a web browser, that's it. Okay, even it is run under iOS, Android, Windows 10, okay, Linux, okay, it can use to access the information from the web application. Okay, the meaning of cross-platform, that any platform, okay, like iOS or Android. Okay, limited resources on client side, already mentioned it. Okay, interoperability, it is going to be the same as a cross-platform compatibility. Interoperability mean it doesn't care you're using what operating system, what type of hardware do you use, as long as that operating system can agree with the web browser, that's it. The application can be deployed. That is the benefit. What is the drawback or the disadvantage? It's a limitation on user interface compared to native graphical user interface. Okay, that is some of a problem, but right now I guess this limitation is already been overcome. Day by day is getting improved in terms of interfaces. Okay, compatibility issues with the some of the web browser. Okay, all web browsers, any developers that try to create a new web browser somehow not fulfill the requirement of the web application. There is some certain, especially in the security and graphic, so that the old version, for example, the simple example is the old version is cannot be used with the latest web application. So you need to upgrade into the new web browser that compatible with the latest web application. And somehow all web application that have a lack of securities sometimes not cannot run in the new web browser. This is some a win to win or lose to lose situation. It is require a network connection. That is a problem. And compared to standalone application, okay, you need a network connection or internet connection so that you can access, because all of the application is stored in web server or in a cloud. Okay, the user does not own the software. Yes, the user does not own the software. It belongs to a web application owner. Okay, sometimes you just use the application with the subscription, and then when you want to update, you need to pay more, and then when you have a compatibility issue, it is suggested by the web application owner to upgrade or to change the new version that's compatible. So all of this thing is the drawback, the disadvantage for web application. There is a lot of things that you need to consider as a drawback or disadvantages. I'm not listing it here. Maybe you can find it on your own. And this is a few points that I'm using for a discussion of the disadvantage of the web application. Okay, that's web interfaces. Is the front end. Okay, I'm not going to discuss this. So this is actually the typical architecture of the web application. Okay, this is the back end. Persistent data store. Normally, as you know, when you are using a XAMPP, we have this PHP, we have this Apache web server, and we have this MySQL database. So MySQL database consistent as a persistent data store. Okay, so that's why the icon is like this. And then we have the front end of the web server and then the web browser. So web browser is normally as a client, and this part is normally as a server. Okay, let's do this now. Okay, I already explained this, the back end. Okay, this is the example of the product. Okay, this is the front end. We have all of these things, the scripting, the web browser, the markup language, the CSS, cascading style sheet, to make your website look better than typical solid HTML. And then we have the Django, PHP, Java, Servlet, Apache, Tomcat. All of this thing is the language scripting for server. And then we have the web server itself, the Apache, the Tomcat. And then for storing data, we need to communicate this web server front end to the persistent data store, or actually it is RDBMS, the relational database management system. For example, as MongoDB, MySQL, Microsoft SQL server. Okay, and this considered as a back end. Okay, this is how the requesting of the static HTML document. Let's see whether we have a dynamic. Yeah, this is the dynamic. The static HTML document is very straightforward, where you request what is the content of the web page by contacting the server, and then the server reply to your IP address so that you can look at your web browser. For the dynamic HTML, okay, we have requesting as usual. Okay, client, you request to the server by typing the URL, and then maybe you key in your username and password, for example, and then the server going to process it, and then what type of processing that they use. For example, we have a PHP scripting to process your username and password, and that stored in the MySQL database, and then it is validated and confirmed you are the legitimate user of the content, and then it's sent back to your web browser. Okay, so you can see what is inside your account. All right, that is the difference between the dynamic and static. The dynamic is considered as a web application because they do the process the script inside a server, and then particular information will be transferred to the client or web browser. Okay, server side, you can read this on your own. All right, that's it. Okay, hopefully you understand the web application, how the client and server technology involved in this, and what protocol that they use, and what is the security element that can be deployed for for web security. Okay, you have self-study on this chapter. Okay, I already uploaded under individual activity at author.uthm.edu.my, and then need to be submitted, I think, tomorrow before midnight. Okay, this is the discussion or the thing that you need to report. Okay, you need to report not more than 5 pages based on the topic web application technology. So the three discussion that you need to do is find what is the HTTP protocol request response cookies, the difference between HTTP and HTTPS, the HTTP proxies and HTTP authentication. Okay, please read and understand this. And then we have a web functionality, server-side functionality, client-side functionality. Okay, I already explained it. And then we have a state and session. What is a state and session in web functionality, especially in the security purposes? And the last one, you need to demonstrate or describe how do you want to secure your web pages or your website using PHP server scripting language that run in Apache Web Server. Okay, I guess that's all class for today. And then please do the self-study because it is evaluated and graded under individual activities at author.uthm.edu.my. All right, thank you and assalamualaikum, and stay safe during this